Wife went to jail for hitting me. My wife, 39F, and I, 34M, are having some problems. We met when I was 29 and 34. It was my first serious adult relationship. She had 2 kids, 3M and 5F, and been divorced for 2 years. I believed her ex sucked big time. Once I met her ex, and he warned me of the horrors to come. I didn't believe him. Foolish me. We had a son together in 2021. She had only hit me once prior to this. Honestly, it was one punch, and I had been hit by a girl once like that before. Brushed it off. It was in October of 2021 she scared me for the first time. She appeared out of nowhere like a linebacker, and her whole demeanor was something I'd never seen before. Long story short, we were buying a bigger house together and selling her house in April of 2022, and we were pregnant. There was a weekend where the baby had died inside of her, and neither of us knew. This is when physical violence and extreme verbal abuse entered the relationship. Over the next 2 years, there was another miscarriage. Things got worse and worse abuse-wise. By February of 2023, she was hitting, biting, and scratching me, pushing me into blinds and breaking them. The biting was the craziest thing. She would clamp down on my hands, arms, and legs, and bite as hard as she could. I would get in top of her and hold her down. I would say if she agreed not to hit, I would let go. Most of the time, she wouldn't agree. I started running away when I could tell she was losing it. We tried therapy and didn't address the violence. She would scream in my ears so loudly I know I have long-term damage. One time, she almost poked my eye out with a stick. She would scream at me in the driveway and in the backyard, and the neighbors would call and complain. I was so embarrassed. She also would never apologize and say it was a reaction. I am not perfect. I am anxious. Started a new business 7 months ago. Can be verbally abusive and mean. This last Christmas, 2023, things got really bad. I took to running, going to a therapist, and reading self-help books. I wanted us to have a great future together and blamed her condition on the miscarriages and babies I wanted so badly. On Father's Day, she beat the crap out of me. For broken skin, bite wounds, a deep leg bruise. On July 5th, we were fighting. I know I can push her buttons. And she ran from the house on foot with our 3-year-old in tow. I followed her in the car. She eventually got in the back seat. I was driving home, arguing, and she hit me in the head several times. She was in back seat, in front of our son. I almost crashed. It was scary, and I started to call the cops in the car. I decided not to. Next couple of days were horrible, and we didn't sleep in the same house. On Monday, she came back from her mom's, and it was rough. Her kids were at their dad's house the month of July. She doesn't hit me in front of them, just very bad verbal abuse. She ended up hitting me in the face. As far as abuse goes, it was light. I put a cigar up to my mouth. She had asked me not to smoke it before. It wasn't lit, but she grabbed it / hit me in the face. Left an open scratch. I called the cops and told her I'd stop if she wanted me to. This was in front of our son. She read a People magazine and called her mother. She acted like it was a joke. Cops came and I said I didn't want to press charges. The DA did, and she got arrested. Evidence taken of my body. She now has an order to stay out of the house for 61 days. I had wanted her to get psychiatric help. She says she can't forgive me for calling the cops and thinks I lied to them. I have a divorce attorney and can have her served. I have not told her I want a divorce yet. She has not chanted. Had one day before her arraignment, she sent me 15 minutes of the nicest voice memos I've ever heard her speak. After that, she became an asshole again. She won't address the abuse because I made her a homeless criminal. I don't want a divorce, but I can't be with her. Now to the next story, story 2. Divorce? Very long post. I'm so lost and confused. My husband and I have been together 15 years, married 11. We have 2 children. We argue like any other couple, but it's never anything major or serious. I believed we had a strong and healthy relationship. This last year has been different. The argument's more serious. It's been rough, and we've acknowledged that. Our biggest strife is his military career. He was not a military guy when we started dating, high school, and I never imagined he would be. It just didn't line up with his personality, goals, or values. After our first child was born, he really started to focus on getting healthier and losing weight. He had been obese. He put in a tremendous amount of effort and lost over 130 pounds. I was so proud of him. With the weight loss came this, to my eyes, sudden desire to join the military. He didn't tell me this, though. It wasn't until COVID shut down that he shared his desire to join. At this point, we were married 7 years, 29 years old with a 3 years old and 1 year old. I wasn't comfortable with active duty. Yes, we argued, but I asked for a compromise and he joined the National Guard. I thought that was okay. Basic was rough. He left one day before my birthday and was gone 7 months. Missed our kids' B-days, starting school, etc. I struggled. They struggled. Our youngest was very distant with him for over a year when he returned. They didn't know him at all, but having him home felt great. The letters he wrote while he was away and how excited he seemed to be back with us was amazing. And when deployed less than a year later for another 5 months, it was easier. Still hard, but easier. In May of this year, though, we had a blow up. He wants to go Special Forces, SF. Regardless if this is active duty or NG, it could mean him deploying abruptly, not knowing when he'll return. I may not be allowed to know where he is or have very limited communication. That's scary as fuck. That's my partner, my best friend, the father of my children. How do I explain what's going on to them? How do I maintain a sense of normalcy for them when I'm freaking out about their dad? He wasn't backing down, and I was spiraling. I told him I never liked the military thing at all, but I compromised with him. But that he keeps pushing and pushing when he knows how I feel, and that he's taking for granted that I'll stick around. I told him I couldn't promise I would this time, that if he joined, it might push me to my breaking point. I told him to do what he wants and I'd just figure it out. After I calmed down, I sent him a message trying to find common ground. I admitted I could be more supportive of his career by not complaining about it so much. I admitted part of my problem is jealousy that he has like this second life without the stress of family and these opportunities to travel, learn new skills, and just focus on himself. I suggested he pick up every opportunity for side schools, like Ranger or Airborne School, and if there was a deployment to sign up. I even said we could consider active duty when he re-ups his contract. But I drew the line at SF. He responded by saying my feelings were valid, and he would look into alternatives to SF. He said he loves me, and we were going to figure this out. And we talked more at home, and agreed what we wanted most was to do this together. That our number one priority was family. Since then it's been peaceful. We're getting along. Not arguing. I'm trying to give him space to enjoy his career. I'm also trying to work on myself, and sometime. As a family, we took a couple of weekend trips. We've laughed and joked and had fun. It's been great, honestly. I've been happy and I thought he was too. Currently he is at annual field training, ATF. It's 2 weeks and I assumed communications would be limited, whether that was due to him being busy or not having SVS. I was fully prepared and unbothered by it. No arguments leading up to him leaving, and he left on good terms. When he arrived at ATF, he told me SVS was spotty. No worries. There were a couple of texts the first few days, but the first opportunity for a conversation came on day 5. I was at work and busy, but he only had about 2 hours to talk, so I did my best to keep up. It wasn't hard really, he just talked about what they were doing and I'd comment or ask a follow-up. But it started to bug me he wasn't asking about the kids or me. He solely focused on himself. This is one of my triggers. That he can be very self-centered and selfish. I dropped out for a bit and left it up to him to pick the conversation back up. He didn't even try. So after about 30 minutes I asked if he was curious about us. Immediate response, Yeah, I was gonna, but I was so tired and nodding off. I admit maybe I was being a bit childish, but it bugged me, and at this point I was too frustrated to continue. I said, "It's fine. We're good. Go rest." A minute later, he said he just needed to rest for a minute, and he's ready now. But again, I was done at this point. Wrong of me, maybe. I admit it. But like, how is that not your first question after being gone 5 days? How are the kids doing? I miss them. Here's what I've been up to. I'm gonna rest a little and text you later. Anyway, it kept nagging at me. Because like I said, the selfishness, one of my biggest triggers. I worry that side life of being solo and independent without us is what he really wants. And this might be where I really truly fucked up. I know the code to his iPad. He knows I do. He told it to me. I've used his phone/iPad multiple times. It's never been a point of concern for either of us. So I logged in and I hate myself now. First of all, his limited SVS hasn't prevented him from texting his BF. If you need space or don't want to talk, just tell me. Don't lie about bad SVS. He complained he may not come home after ATF because I got short with him in my text. He never explained to BF what was said. Turns out, though, he's been complaining like this for months. Those trips we went on and I thought we had a good time. He was miserable. Spending time together was making things worse. Apparently on the second trip, and the one I really thought was great, he wanted to snap at me the whole time but managed to hold it back. That was a shock because we literally never even bickered. No snide comments or cold shoulders. We got along great. He's told BF of plans to build his own place and leave this toxic marriage. He's sent him home building plans. The same ones he sent me and suggested we build for our family. He literally referred to me and the kids as shackles holding him back from what he really wants. He scheduled a 4-day Special Forces exam in North Carolina and SEPT without telling me. He said he knows it's shitty, but he has to do it, and if he passes, he'll deal with the fallout then, even if that means losing me. He's requested a deployment to Romania next year. He told me they were pulling guys, choosing them, not taking volunteers. He recently took a new full-time Army job. He requested second shift, which keeps our interactions limited to weekends mostly. He told me they chose for him. He's vaping and keeping it from me. He's storing BF's bike, but it's actually his own. I found a nude photo sent by a local Facebook friend and saved to his camera. I don't see a conversation, but I'm not Facebook savvy. I read his journal. I learned about Operation Freebird, his plan to leave me, how he can't stand my unwillingness to let him go Special Forces, that I am unwilling to compromise, and I'm the one getting everything my way, that he's done with my toxic attitude and lack of dreams, my boring safe life. Oh, and this plan first formed when he joined way back in 2020. He was actually planning on leaving me then. He was just trying to decide whether he should do it before or after he left for basic. Literally made an entry where he talked about how unhappy he was and wanted to escape on our fucking anniversary. If he's been that unhappy for that long, why is he stringing me along? Why not be honest? I would have been devastated, but by this point we would be moved on and doing better in our new lives. Like, does he not realize he's not just fucking me over, but himself too? If I'm the reason he's not where he wants to be, wouldn't it make more sense to leave me and tackle those dreams? And how does he think all of this long-drawn, hot, simmering hatred and betrayal is going to affect his kids? Does he care? Does he think of them? Ick. I feel like I invaded his privacy. I feel like the guy writing those texts and journals is not my husband. I can't even begin to explain how different these two people are. I feel stupid because he truly made me believe we were in love, that I was lucky to have such a genuine, honest, and caring husband. I wasn't the wife whose husband secretly loathes her. I'm having trouble reconciling that these two people are the same person. I love my husband with all of my heart. I hate this other man, but if I confront and leave him, I'm also losing the man I love and my children love. Look what I'm asking for here. Maybe I just needed to get it all out and unburden myself. Now next story, story 3. What's the difference between a clear boundary and an ultimatum? I love my husband, but I feel like I've reached my breaking point. 5 years together, both survivors of childhood S.Zool trauma. Our repressed memories of this have come back to us in recent years, during our relationship. Our S.X life has gone from good to very much in need of help, professional help, in my opinion. I am very pro-therapy, but my husband refuses to go. I have tried to be very patient. We, mostly I, have tried to fix these issues on our own. This means I've read lots of stuff and tried to have discussions about our S.Zool issues a lot with my husband. I've suggested therapy, but he adamantly refuses to go. So I've tried initiating discussions, and we've had lots of them. They seemed useful. We both were able to share what triggers us and what we like and don't like that we were unaware of before. But while my libido is pretty active, his has gone from pretty high to virtually non-existent over the past few months. Maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. Otherwise, he's just simply not interested in sex. I feel like I've reached the end of my rope. Every single discussion on the topic has been initiated by me, and sometimes he'd shut them down, saying he was too tired and triggered, and suggesting we have our sex talk at an agreed-upon time another day, when he'd forget, or we'd start talking and he'd get visibly uncomfortable after a few minutes and change the subject. We have had good discussions too, but not much actual progress. Tonight was the last straw. I was feeling really upset, so I got out of bed and went over into the living room so as not to wake him. After a while, he texted me if I was okay. I texted no. He came over to me and asked what was wrong. I told him I was really sad and frustrated about our sex life, and how I felt like I'm the only one putting in the work, and even though I love him I can't live like this. This is not the first time I've told him this. To this he got up, muttered something about wanting to rest, and left the room. To me, this was the last straw. I can't see any hope in having yet another talk about these issues in the morning, him telling me we'll work on things for the 1000th time, and then everything being basically exactly how he wants it. Less marriage and nothing really being worked on. Think is, he will actually agree to work on stuff like doing exercises from a book, and he will actually be willing to do them, but I can feel from his energy that he doesn't want to be there, and wants it over with as fast as possible. It just doesn't feel like we're on the same page. I love him, but I can't take this. I want a partnership where my partner and I desire each other. What complicates things is that I'm days away from giving birth to our first child. And yes, I know, pregnancy is a turnoff for some men, but his excuses started way before this, so I don't think that's the issue. I am also not a keep the peace for the children type. I wouldn't want my son growing up with bickering parents and an unhappy mom. So, question is, I am ready to give an ultimatum for lack of a better word. But how do I do it compassionately? I do love my husband, and it breaks my heart all the other lovely ways he takes care of me, but I am simply not happy and not seeing things getting any better. Sadly, I see the potential that things could get better for us, but if I'm the only one wanting that, that's not enough. I have to sadly acknowledge that if we want such different things, we will not make each other happy. I don't want to end up making each other miserable. I also, of course, don't want him to force himself to do things he genuinely doesn't want to. So if I am not what he wants, I am ready to let him find happiness elsewhere. So how do I phrase this compassionately without it sounding like a threat? The basic message would be, unless we book a session for sex therapy right now, I'm afraid the only form of relationship I will be open to with you from now on is an amicable co-parenting one. I love you, but I am miserable in a marriage that lacks Zool passion and the potential to work on that. I am not willing to stay in this marriage if our relation to intimacy stays the way it is right now. I am not willing to make you miserable, and I am not willing to make myself miserable. Unless concrete steps are taken, I will be filing for a divorce. Is that good? I wrote his ex therapy as the condition because he has agreed to everything else under the sun, like having regular talks about sex and trying new things, but that's so vague, and overall it hasn't been working.